for allowing us to host what I think is an event that really reflects the name of 1776, which is all about independence, freedom, equality, the organizing principles of our nation, and the organizing principles of the internet. And so we join with Engine today, and we look forward to having, a time where we can show the breadth and the diversity of support for Congressman Mike Kaufman and what he has worked to do in his legislative efforts and in signing and working to make sure that the open internet is protected and preserved today and in the future. So as I come today, as we think about an open internet, it's something that when I was in Congress, as a Republican, was proud to be a part of the early days of forming the principles and the policy of a commercial internet, an open internet, and it truly was a bipartisan consensus. And today, as you look across the country, it continues to be an American policy where there is broad and deep and diverse support for those organizing principles of freedom and equality embodied in what has been the most successful, in my perspective, free market expansion of the commerce that we see over the internet as we celebrate Amazon Prime this week, and is the expression of all beliefs and views, conservative to liberal, religious and secular. It has every freedom that we can imagine, and all of the innovation that has driven our economy. It is truly an American-led success story, American-made and American-born success that has spread around the world. As we look at what is happening today, we are seeing the streaming revolution, and Encompass represents both over-the-top streaming. We represent the builders, the broadband and fiber and 5G builders of tomorrow, and we represent the competitors. We have a proud group of companies, and we are very proud that the coalition of competition across all platforms, across all networks, and across the internet is at the core of who Encompass is. And we are seeing the success of the streaming revolution that is happening, of the migration, the business revolution to the cloud, and that competition is driving our economy, and it drives the small business, the startup, the small towns, the rural areas. It connects people to the largest possible market and opportunity possible. And so the work that Congressman has done, and what we will see and discuss today is really fundamental to 1776 and the celebration of the 4th of July that we've just had. It is all about freedom, it's about equality, and it is about the opportunity of the founding principles both of this country and of the internet. And with that, I'm going to introduce our co-host, Engine, Kate Tamarello. If she would please come up. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Chip. And thank you so much to Encompass for co-hosting this event, to 1776 for having us, and of course to Congressman Kaufman for his work on this issue. For anyone who doesn't know Engine, we are a group here in DC and in San Francisco, and we advocate for pro-startup policies. We work with thousands of startups across the country, and a lot of them really care about net neutrality. Startups everywhere in the country rely on net neutrality protections to keep the internet a level playing field where any company, even a small, young startup that doesn't have a ton of funding, can succeed on its merits. In a world where ISPs can pick winners and losers, startups have a harder time reaching new users and competing against the biggest players. And without fair access to users, startups aren't able to get investment, they can't grow, and they can't be the job creation and economy boosting companies that they are today. That's why it was such a win for the US startup ecosystem when the FCC issued strong net neutrality rules in 2015. Those rules, as you guys probably know, kept ISPs from blocking or slowing online content or charging websites and others for better access to users. We actively opposed the FCC's repeal of these rules late last year, and we've been encouraging Congress to step in and reinstate those critical protections. We're very appreciative of Congressman Kaufman's work to move the ball forward in this debate, Startups and their users in every district across the country need strong net neutrality protections, and the debate here in DC should reflect that broad support. So thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much to Congressman.
You know, this is not just a tech and ISP debate. This is a Main Street business, and if anything that we've seen this is a Main Street business issue. And anything that we've seen over the past year as the realtors and other small businesses and Main Street businesses have rallied to the cause of preserving and protecting net neutrality and the open internet, no group has embodied that better than the National Realtors Association. And today we have a realtor that is with us, Ona Harrison, and we'd love to hear from her.
Thank you, Chip, and I'd also like to thank Encompass and Engine for inviting me here today. And I'd also like to specifically, and a really heartfelt thanks to Representative Mike Hoffman for all of your hard work putting together this tremendous piece of legislation. When we talk about the future of net neutrality, what we're really talking about is the future of the internet and the future of commerce in this country. Make no mistake, this is a Main Street issue, and Representative Kaufman's 21st Century Internet Act will protect both consumers and small businesses from the impacts of net neutrality repeal. The bill is much needed, and it's a much needed common sense approach to restoring net neutrality following the FCC's controversial decision in December. Realtors to compete and do business online. Nearly all of America's 1.3 million realtors depend on open access to affordable, high-quality internet service to adequately serve our customers, clients, and market properties and conduct business. The bill ensures myself and my colleagues across the country can do just that. We send our sincere thank you to Representative Kaufman for all your work on this important issue. And thank you all again for the opportunity to speak, and I'll be happy to take questions from all of you after the event.
I want to thank you, and it's now my privilege to introduce Mike Hoffman, Congressman Mike Hoffman, who represents the 6th District of Colorado. And having worked almost 30 years in the legislative process, having worked for Senator Lott and the Senate staff, and then on the Energy and Commerce Committee, and then in Congress for 12 years. It's not too often that you see someone who's willing to be bold and courageous, someone who's willing to lead, someone who's willing to listen to all parts of his district and all parts of the country. And so what you see today, and what the support that you'll see for Mike's efforts are really remarkable. You know, we've seen it a little bit: startups, realtors, Main Street, tech, competitors. A number of ISPs have worked closely through the process with Congressman Kaufman. So it really takes input from everyone and comes with a very strong a statement of policy, of legislation that really does codify permanently the principles that we have known as net neutrality. And so we're very proud today to have and to host Congressman Kaufman, who is the only member of Congress who has served in both Gulf Wars. He's on the Armed Services Committee, the Veterans Committee. And not only is this an issue that really resonates across the country, and especially with millennials, you can't imagine a world without net neutrality. But as he goes to Afghanistan and visits our troops and the Colorado military families, he hears from military families how important the internet is for their communication and connection to each other. And so we applaud what Congressman Kaufman has done by listening to the people in his district and all the different factions, from the grassroots to the largest to the smallest companies who depend on the open internet. And today we introduce Mike Kaufman to give us the keynote.
Being connected means different different things to different people. But for a lot of us, the internet has become the best, most efficient way to connect. In a certain sense, it is the new town square. People come together, share ideas, seek entertainment, share. And we need to restore these protections now. It is really quite simple. You pay your broadband provider for internet access. You don't pay them to make decisions about internet content. In exchange for your payment, you should get freedom of access without market-distorting arrangements. While the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, has made several attempts at protecting net neutrality, Congress needs to step in and provide a permanent national solution that will eliminate future uncertainty in the online marketplace, helping spur long-term investment and innovation. Today, I am introducing legislation that will codify the four corners of four principles of net neutrality: no blocking, no throttling, no pay prioritization, and strong interconnection policies. Congress needs to end the confusion at the FCC by establishing clear rules. My bill is the strongest net neutrality legislation put forward to date. It creates a new title for broadband internet access and includes many common sense protections beyond the four corners I just described. My bill is pro-consumer, pro-competition, pro-innovation, pro-Main Street business, pro-First Amendment, and ensures this country remains a global leader in internet policy. The internet is different from the brick and mortar world. It is intended to be free and open. Main Street businesses, startups, and small businesses can't afford to pay exorbitant fees for priority service in order to compete with large corporations. My bill allows small businesses to flourish and compete in the global marketplace. I've always said that we need congressional action and a congressional solution on net neutrality. The issue is too important to be left to an unelected commission and to shift back and forth with each change in administration. Today we do not have net neutrality protections, and each day without these protections is one day too many. As members of Congress, we need to take an all-of-the-above strategy to ensure that we restore net neutrality. This is not a partisan issue. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and Trump voters alike overwhelmingly support the net neutrality principles outlined in this legislation. The only place where the need for this bill is questioned is within the beltway of Washington, D.C. When I talk to my constituents, they tell me they strongly support net neutrality. It is time we listen to them instead of those opposed to net neutrality. Millennials are especially focused on this issue because they've never known a world without a free and open internet. Whether those millennials are conservatives or progressive, they cannot imagine why Washington would want to take away internet freedoms. Having served for 21 years in the military with 5 overseas deployments, I understand why military families care deeply about net neutrality. They need a reliable, high-speed connection to stay in touch with their loved ones while on deployments. It is time for Congress to act, and I am proud to lead the charge in supporting consumers, small business owners, tech startups, and edge providers. As a result, in addition to my legislation, I will also be signing today Congressman Doyle's discharge petition to bring CIA for a vote. It is time we establish an internet constitution. We all can rely on. The internet is just too important. And I hope you will join me in this effort. Thank you.
Again, I want to thank Congressman Kaufman and his staff for the tremendous work, for the courage to take a land, sea, air, if we were to talk in Churchillian terms of whatever it takes to win this fight over an open and free internet. The net neutrality principles of his bill creates a permanent solution. It creates a predictable for all those who want to invest and innovate and communicate and connect over the internet. And it creates the opportunity that we know comes from an open platform, whether it's the startup or the small business. And so we applaud what Congressman Kaufman has done, both in the legislation and in signing the discharge petition. And we will begin doing everything we can to support your effort, because I believe it is very significant today. It is not often today that a Republican leads on this issue, which saddens me greatly. But at the same time, not only is a Republican leading on this effort, someone from a district like you represent in Colorado really does represent so much that is good for our country and so many other places around our country. It also, I believe, will be the starting point and the benchmark and the measuring stick for all legislative efforts to come. And so it really is the beginning of the Constitution and the process. And so we celebrate today your actions on both the legislation and the CRA, and we appreciate you greatly. So join with me in applauding Congressman Kaufman. For those who are in the press, we will be ending right now, but we are available to answer any questions after the event. So join with me in thanking Congressman Kaufman.